59% of our new officer hires. This is simply unacceptable. This budget, thanks in large part to the police contract, this council has graciously approved and make our officers' salary more competitive, raising their pay by an annual increase of 3.5% next year. We've been able to budget 9 additional new officer hires and look at promoting officers in vacant leadership roles in 2023, which will create additional opportunities for new recruits. That means more patrol in our streets, faster response time to emergency. This past weekend, I saw many of you at our annual Harrisburg Holiday Parade. This is one of the 6 major festival events put on by our Parks and Recreation team that brings tours and things outside the city. But what about special events for our residents who live here? Events like Dash at the Brownstone, Fishing Day at County Lake, and the upcoming Santa in the Park. They're all incredibly popular community-based events which bring our neighborhood together. I would like more of those. This budget, we're investing in our community by hiring a dedicated community events coordinator. This person will help oversee and create even more of these family-friendly events. Additionally, we are looking at putting more of the savings from the DNF bond payoff into our infrastructure. We're continuing last year's pledge with more money for streetlights and more money for traffic control improvements. But most importantly, we will be investing in ADA improvements with brand new ADA intersection ramps being placed on a PennDOT funded new road surface on State Street and long-awaited upgrades to the lobbies of City Hall and Public Safety Building, addressing decade-old ADA concerns. Lastly, the city of Harrisburg has been stuck in the Stone Age when it comes to technology, as many of you are well aware of. Our software system is decades old. What does this mean for our residents and our businesses? Lower time to process payments, lower time for the licensed company. Think of it this way: Harrisburg is like a 1985 automobile. It gets the job done, but it can be a slog sometimes. Well, now we're upgrading to a Beamer. This budget will continue to allow the city to move forward on Operation Municipal Migration and transition into the Munis system from pilot technologies. All of our customers, businesses, vendors, and employees will soon be able to access their own information to provide their own self-service on a schedule that fits their needs. Moving fully online allows for everything to be faster and more organized. We respect and recognize that your time is valuable and time equals money. Once fully implemented, we will actually save city taxpayers several $100,000 per year. Lastly, now I'd like to draw attention to the Neighborhood Services Fund, where we must use $1.5 million of fund balance. This money is going to the higher cost of diesel, the higher cost of tipping rates, and replenishing the aging and dying food and garbage like this price. These vehicles have picked up an unexpected amount of extra wear and tear by the virtue of the city of Harrisburg. Now picking up trash and stealing, taxing, and network as well. I implore council to work in my administration in the coming months to figure out a strategy to create permanent stability in this fund. We need to answer 4 key components moving forward. First one is, how do we handle outstanding sanitation collections? 2, how do we handle future sanitation collections? 3, what the city sanitation rates need to be? 4, what the future negotiated outside of contract rates need to be? Council members, we have the opportunity with this budget to continue to move the city of Harrisburg forward. This budget is fiscally sound and responsible for our residents. There are no tax increases. And when you consider our entire budget, the least expensive city budget compared to 2019. We look forward to starting this important process with you. And we'll go over some of the highlights on PowerPoint for everybody here. We'll pass it over to Marie and Brian.
Everything that we're covering, grateful to be here this evening. I am ready to tell you that my perspective with the city of Harrisburg. The budget manager to work to my left, the county manager to my right, is Brian and really lower me out over the last 2 weeks. Brian was sitting in the kind of work done. Really appreciate it. This evening, we want to take a little glance at the 2023 budget, some of the funding highlights. The general fund, $71,920,200. The neighborhood services fund, $20,155,182. And the total 2023 fund is $109,208. If you look at the history of
We want to do it because can you please speak into the mic so we can hear them? To make sure everybody is like watching. Thank
Thank you. The year-by-year comparison from 2018 to 2023 illustrates this being one of the lowest budgets in the past history since 2018. The general fund again is the 74,920,418. Neighborhood services 29,255,483. And the total all funds 110,009,603. Just repeated that it's on the that's it. Administration has been abundantly fiscally responsible. I think, given the fact that the city has been dealing with rising costs with record inflation, as many of you know, our diesel costs have been through the roof. And that's been an enormous challenge for this fiscal year and coming into the new fiscal year. As I mentioned earlier, it's the smallest total budget since 2019, 110.69. Sorry, 110.69. And there's no tax increase anticipated as we proposed. And no reduction in employees or affordable related services. As mentioned earlier, the mayor has a significant commitment to public safety, and the 2023 budget is validation of her commitment. Police officers annual increase is 3.5%, that is 23, 24, 25. There's 152 uniformed police officers, 16 new positions, 9 trainees, 3 sergeants, 2 corporals, 1 lieutenant, 1 forensic investigator, and 1 detective. And of course, we have our commander, our commissioner, over there to the right. We've done an outstanding job of leading the public safety effort. Debt-free in supposed to be debt-free completely in 2023. 125 million was paid on the DNF fund, and this was permitted a great opportunity for the city to upgrade and update streetlights and traffic signals to improve state streets. And in particular, on State Street, not only are we taking but a replacement of all the ADA upgrades and the related signage related to not only ADA but other related upgrades for signage. And then, as mentioned earlier, the lobby upgrades in the Margaret King building and the public safety building. So those are some things that we're going to be able to do because we were able to free up the final payment for the and products. Balancing the budget has been an enormous challenge this year, specifically in neighborhood services fund. The good news is we are purchasing 4 new trucks, 2 new recycling trucks, 200 the CNP, and 2 garbage trucks. Recall we provide services to 3 additional municipalities that are still to Pembroke and Paxton, and the total uncollected revenue at this point is $10.9 million. So that's also an enormous challenge of the work with the team as a body to and those are the high level highlights of the budget presented before you. We provided the binder. We're hoping that the index tab, the genius idea of my budget manager, will make it a little easier. And we also put it in a binder so at least the early budget so that you can information in hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. On behalf of the mayor, I will defer this time to our Budget and Finance Committee Chair, Vice President Green.
Thank you, President Howard. Thank you all for the presentation. Thank you for your hard work in putting this budget together for us. I look forward to going through it and spending some time together in the next couple of weeks on the hearing. Our hearings will start next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. and we'll be starting with public safety to start with. I'll start to see if anyone has any questions or comments regarding the presentation. Obviously, kind of needs to not get into this before we even have too many questions, but just high level, if anyone has any questions. Councilman Rouse?
I do know, because the budget here is coming up, I can look through this and.
Councilman Madison?
No question.
President Howard?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Majors?
No question.
Councilman Davis? Councilman Rodriguez?
No questions.
All right, thank you. I will ask if we can have the presentation, just did tonight sent to us, just so we can have it, for our records. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Green. We will now move to courtesy of the floor, just for some housekeeping. Everyone will have 2 minutes to share their comments. Please state your name and your address. If you don't feel comfortable stating your address, please state the vicinity in which you live. Mr. Parker will serve as our timekeeper. I will begin to my far right. Is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, anyone in the Zoom session. Seeing and hearing no one, anyone to my left. Seeing and hearing no one, we will move forward with our agenda. Next, we have approval of minutes. Council members, are there any revisions to the minutes from the legislative session of November 15th, 2022? Seeing and hearing none, our minutes will stand approved. We do not have any reports of committees tonight. We do have 2 ordinances for first reading. The first is Bill 12 of 2022. Mr. Parker, would you please read Bill 12 of 2022 into the record?
Bill 12-2022. An ordinance establishing the budget for the municipal government of the city of Harrisburg for the year 2023.
Thank you. Bill 12 of 2022 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Our second ordinance for first reading is Bill 13 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes, Bill 13 of 2022. An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the city of Harrisburg, Title 5, Licensing and Taxation, Part 5, Real Estate Taxes, Chapter 5-501, Property Tax, by establishing for the year 2023 a tax levy on land and improvements and providing for the distribution of taxes levied and assessed and providing for a tax rebate for the difference between the tax due and attributable to the year 2023 tax levy over the tax due and attributable to the year 2006 tax levy for qualifying senior citizens.
Thank you. Bill 13 of 2022 will also move to the Budget and Finance Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment, nor ordinances for final passage. We will now move to resolution. The first resolution for consideration tonight is Resolution 43 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 43-2022. A resolution appointing Deborah Robinson to serve on the board of directors of Capital Region Water, a municipal authority.
Thank you. Council members, as noted during our caucus, we will have two amendments to this resolution. The first is you'll note that on page 5 of the resolution, the last clause does not include a term expiration date. So I'd like to note the expiration date, and the clause before it notes the board member's term that has expired, that the appointee will be filling. So just for your reference, the effective date for this resolution will be Monday, January 2nd, 2023. The ending date for this term will be January 4th, 2024. And this potential appointee will serve the remainder of Mr. Mark Gillespie's term, which will end January 4th, 2024. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to the effective date of resolution 43 of 2022 or the term outline? Yes.
One, first,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. It's January 4th, 2019. I just wanted to make sure everybody will clarify. But I've been on some note, when it has been.
certain date and
Thank you. So I move, to add an effective date for resolution 43 of 2022 as Monday, January 2nd, 2023. Is there a second? Thank you. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote on the first amendment?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Massey.
Yes.
Mr. Majors. Yes. Ms. Rawls.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Yes. And Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Okay, amendment passes 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. Now I move to add to the 5th page of resolution 43. The preceding CRW board member's term expired on January 4th, 2019. The second date to be added is the appointment of Ms. Deborah Robinson to the Capital Region Water Board of Directors for a term expiring January 4th, 2024. Is there a second? Thank you. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote for the second one?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Mattson.
Yes.
Mr. Majors. Yes. Ms. Rawls.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes, thank you.
Second amendment passes unanimously, 78, 0 nays.
Thank you. Moving on to resolution 44 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 44.
Oh, wait, hold on. No, we didn't. Oh, thank you. We voted on amendment, excuse me, for resolution 43 of 2022. That was not the final vote.
For that point of order on resolution. Hold on, as amended.
I know, but so our votes stand after the second amendment.
Maybe an amendment that both of them there. And ordinance, you know, you both replying the same thing.
Okay. Then, so, we can move forward, you have the clarification.
Point of clarification. So what we voted on both of these, my understanding was 2 amendments. We didn't.
Okay, that's your understanding.
Yeah, no, my understanding was, so, the chair, President Bowers, asked to amend resolution 43 to include the new,
Include the effective date
and
and
then
to
to
include
include
the term.
the time. But we don't really go, the resolution. We're doing that with, that's.
Even we don't have to, but if that's the pleasure of the council, we can.
That's it.
You do not have to, and it's made it simple. It's a little garble when I said, you make one motion, the vote changes. And that one vote, your motion is that resolution. Put it back, add the expiration date. And vote on that. And that motion fails, if you bring it back.
Thanks for clarifying. I thought you initially said I had to include each date. That's why I did it. You did.
Yes.
So let's, before we move forward to resolution 44, council members, what is your pleasure? Are you fine as where this resolution stands, or would you like a final vote on it amended for clarity?
I would suggest a clarity to go to the next resolution, just my opinion.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would, I thought.
Okay. We will now vote on resolution 43 of 2022 as amended. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green.
No.
Mr. Mattson.
Yes.
Mr. Majors. No. Ms. Rawls.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Ms. Bowers.
I too would like to note that this is no disrespect to the potential appointee, but as I've stated in previous meetings and in previous years with appointments, I'd like to see some fresh faces, some new perspective added to the board, so I will be casting a no.
Resolution 43 does not pass with 4 nays and 3 yeas.
Thank you. We will now move to resolution 44 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes, resolution 44-2022. A resolution appointing Joseph B. Link, P.E., to serve on the board of directors of Capital Region Water, a municipal authority.
Thank you. We will move through the same sequence. We have to add an effective date and related term. Okay, I'll begin. I move to add an effective date for resolution 44 of 2022 as Monday, January 2nd, 2023. Is there a second? I'd like to do both. I'd like to do one at a time. That way it's clear.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmembers, any questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. Parker, could you please call the roll on the first amendment?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Mattson.
Yes.
Mr. Majors. Yes. Ms. Rawls.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Amendment passes 78-0.
Thank you. Now I move to add again, this is on page 5 of resolution 44 of 2022. It is the second to last clause. Whereas the preceding CRW board member's term expired on January 4th, 2020. Now, therefore, the result that Mr. Joseph B. Blank is appointed to the Capital Region Water Board of Directors for a term expiring on January 4th, 2025. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote on the second amendment?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Mattson. Mr. Majors. Yes. Ms. Rawls. Mr. Rodriguez. Yes. And Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes. This
No,
is
you're
your
amendment again.
for the term.
Right. Second amendment passes unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. So now, council members, we are voting on resolution 44 of 2022 as amended. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the final vote?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green. Mr. Mattson.
Yes.
Mr. Majors. No. Ms. Rawls.
No.
Mr. Rodriguez. No. Ms. Bowers.
Again, I share the same sentiments with the last potential appointee. I'd like to see some new faces, so no.
Resolution 44 as amended has failed with 6 nays and 1 yea.
Thank you. We are now moving to resolution 45 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. A resolution appointing Karen M. Balaban to serve on the board of directors of Capital Region Water, a municipal authority.
Thank you. Council members, we will have the same sequence of amendments. I move to add an effective date of Monday, January 2nd, 2023 to resolution 45 of 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Council members, any questions, comments, or concerns? to move forward with the vote. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote for amendment?
Ms. Daniels,
It's just the effective date for the resolution, so you might say, hey, we're in section 2023.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Rodriguez. Yes. And Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
First Amendment of Resolution 45 is passed unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. We will now move to the Second Amendment. Same location, page 5 of Resolution 45 of 2022. I move to add, whereas the preceding CRW board member's term expired on January the 4th, 2021. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that Karen M. Balaban is appointed to the Capital Region Water Board of Directors for a term expiring on January 4th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Council members, any questions, comments, or concerns related to the Second Amendment?
This is to vote on January 4th, 2026.
Correct. We have
Thank
two dates that were missing. We had the date for the term that expired, which was January 4th, 2021. And then the new term for Miss Karen Balaban would be, the term would expire on January 4th, 2026.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Second Amendment of Resolution 45 passes unanimously, 7 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Council members, we will now cast our final vote on Resolution 45 of 2022 as amended. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm getting a sense of where council feels about these appointments. And I feel like we're embarrassing people that are volunteering for something. And I don't think that's fair to them. So I think maybe we should table these appointments until we can figure out, or at the leisure of the president, but
Well, I think we did discuss them all at a work session. We did have ample time to interview each potential appointee. At this point, I mean, we've already amended this resolution. We have one more after this one. And just for everyone's reference, we will have another term that expires on January 4th, 2023 to either reappoint the individual should they be interested in continuing to serve. So that's just something to consider. But this is in no way, we are happy that people are willing to volunteer their time. We know that everybody's time is precious. I know my personal preference would just be for other people to step up and volunteer. I know we have a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge within our city. And I'd just like to see some new people participate more actively on our boards and commissions. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 45 of 2022? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the final vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Or no?
Ms. Green,
No.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
No.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Final vote on Resolution 45 as amended passes with a vote of 4 yeas and 3 nays.
Thank you. We will now move to Resolution 61 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 61, a resolution appointing Nathan Davidson to serve on the Board of Directors of Capital Region Water, a municipal authority.
Thank you. Council members, this is our last one to go through with amendments. First Amendment, I move to add the effective date of Monday, January 2nd, 2023 to Resolution 61 of 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote for the First Amendment?
First Amendment vote. Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
First Amendment of Resolution 61 passes unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Second Amendment, this can be found on page 3 of Resolution 61 of 2022. Council members, it's the second to last clause. I move to amend, whereas the preceding CRW board member's term expired on January 4th, 2022. Now therefore be it and hereby resolved that Mr. Davidson is appointed to the Capital Region Water Board of Directors for a term expiring January 4th, 2027. Is there a second?
Second.
Council members, any questions, comments, or concerns related to the Second Amendment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Second Amendment for Resolution 61-2022. Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
The Second Amendment of Resolution 61 passes unanimously, 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. Council members, we will now have our final vote on Resolution 61 of 2022 as amended. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Final vote on Resolution 61 as amended has passed unanimously, 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. We will now move to Resolution 64 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 64-2022. A resolution approving the third proposed 2022 budget reallocation, authorizing a prepayment in accordance with the terms of the third amended and restated settlement agreement between the City of Harrisburg and AMBAC Assurance Corporation.
Thank you. Council members, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules for discussion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I will defer to Vice President Green, our Budget and Finance Committee Chair, to lead the discussion.
Thank you, President Bowers. If we have anyone from the administration that would like to speak, I know I have a few comments as well as some proposed amendments. So I was able to speak with some council members as well as some members of the administration about Resolution 64 that was discussed last week. And it will be my pleasure to amend this resolution to pay $12.1 million, make a nice large lump sum payment onto this debt, and then look at what's left over from this year's budget as far as our surplus. And then possibly, once the books are closed, place that directly onto the debt with the hopes of being able to get this cleared off as soon as possible, while still giving us the opportunity to see this year's budget in full, not just the binder, but actually get to look through it, as well as kind of get an understanding of what's going on with the economy to the limited amount that we will be able to. But it gives us just a little more information and makes for sure that we're prudent with the finances of the city. So I don't know if there's any comment from the administration. I know that Ms. Audrey Carter is here with the ICA, if she has any comments, and then if my council members have any comments. So I'll start with if the administration would like to add anything.
Thank you, Chair Green. Good evening, City Council members. Brian McCutcheon, Accounting Manager. Just to clarify, Chair Green, I think you said 12.1, and I think the resolution is written as a flat 12 million.
Okay, then it can be a flat 12 million.
Okay. All right. As we've previously presented and discussed, that total liability we're anticipating to be by the next available payment due date would be December 15th. And just as background, the total forbearance liability will be a little over 20.2 million. We presented 3 scenarios, including the full payoff, and there were 2 other partial payment presentations, including the one that's before you tonight, the 12 million. And what this does, this sets up the amount for December. It would be a proposed use of the general fund balance, as it has always been presented in that approach. And it opens up the planning then for 2023 for the remaining payments. However they turn out, that'll of course be discussed through the budget hearings process. But just to note that the required payments are as per AMBAC's schedule, 1.944 million in March, and also the same amount in September. And the proposed scenario, again, it's one option coupled with the 12 million to do approximately 4.2 million in both March and September at an additional interest cost to the city that approximates $205,000 compared to as if we would have paid the full amount for the end of this year. That's my quick summary. If anybody has any other comments or questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. And just to clarify, the 2 payments spoken of the 4.2 million, this resolution does not require us to make those payments and those amounts. We could choose to make the required payments of 1.9 million if we so see fit, or if we're able to pay it off sooner, we'd be able to do that as well. So it doesn't limit us to having to pay it in those chunks, but that's just another option that's out there. I'll open it up to Ms. Carter. Would you like to make any comments?
Feel free, you don't have to.
I'll just say that again, I think discretion is better, and so I think it's wise to make sure you have as many solid numbers as possible before.
Thank you. I'll open it up to my colleagues for any comments or questions before I make the proposed amendment. Any comments or questions? Councilman Rodriguez.
Yeah, I just like to say, I think it's fiscally responsible, and I appreciate the compromise on the administration and the due diligence of Chair Green and the way council came together just to converse about it. I agree. A substantial partial payment would be, I think, the best move, and then just kind of see where we are during the new year. But I appreciate the collaboration on both ends. Thank you.
Councilwoman Daniels.
This is, if you could just remind me again, the next set of income really comes in March. And do you remember the amount again? I can't remember.
The set amounts are in March, 1,944,000 approximately. That's very close. And it's the same for September. In fact, those are the
No, I mean, our revenue, our revenue.
revenue. Oh, my apology.
Yeah, remember, it doesn't PowerPoint the last.
Right, we did that analysis or do you mean for the whole year, or that analysis I did for like through April?
Because well, part of our discussion was that if we paid off a chunk of the money, even if we were running really close, that we would be okay because there was
Oh,
so many millions that would be coming in March.
right, yeah, that was that analysis we did where that analysis was based on the full payoff scenario,
Okay.
which it is in that example, it would take the city down to between 14 and 15 million in its cash position at year end this year. But then we would realize during January through April, an increase in cash that would be somewhere between 6.7 and 7 million, which would push us back up over 20 million in cash at the end of April. Now, in the 12 million approach, then you're actually, now there's a larger buffer, an additional 8 million, in comparison. So that's an extra built-in cushion, so to speak.
That doesn't.
Thank you. Councilman Majors.
Yes, thank you, Chair Green. So just a couple quick points. We all talked about this before, but I think framing of all this is also important as well. So Brian and Mr. McCutcheon, in terms of the current AMBEC agreement runs through which year? 2029 would be the payoff year?
I believe it runs through March of 2029 as it's structured on AMBAC's current schedule.
Okay, and then we get that the increase in the interest rate would be November of 2024.
Correct.
And if we were to not do anything, continue to make the payments that in the current schedule, there would be $4 million worth of interest, correct? I think roughly we talked about it'd be for about $4 million worth of interest we would be paying without changing the schedule, us making payments on the current schedule without these additional payments being accelerated.
That's correct. That would be without making any payment this year.
Right.
And just letting it
ride
ride the whole way through. That's correct.
And, because I think, you're correct to highlight an additional $200,000 worth of interest if we're not paid off this year, but over the current schedule on how we were structured to pay this off when the city got into this, we were looking at $4 million through 2029. We're looking at accelerating the payment this year versus paying it all off in the tune of $12 million. If we are to pay it off next year, we're still saving the city $3.7 million over what the agreement initially was, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
That's a good summary.
So I just want to make sure that the public understands that the city, and I think members of this body and everyone involved wants to get the city out from under this debt that we got into, which, as the ICA mentioned at our last meeting, which is some of the most insidious debt that there is. It's debt on top of debt. I think as a city, we are coming out from underneath, you know, a lot of bad decisions. I'm trying to be as nice as I can without, because this is a passion issue of mine. I mean, I think on all of us really, a lot of bad decisions that have been made over decades, and we really see the light at the end of the tunnel, truly. I think with this AMBEC debt liability coming off of the city, I think we are really looking at a new day. But I think this agreement that we were able to at least have conversations about is a real good step in that right direction. It is us also being mindful that we don't want to repeat we're just being conservative on how we look at making these decisions moving forward. But I think that framing is important because, you know, oftentimes people say, oh, well, it's going to be 200,000 additional, but over the life of this debt that I think none of us were on council when that agreement was put in place. We were looking at $4 million through 2029. So I just think that's important for the public to know as we have this conversation. Thank you, Chair Green.
Thank you, Councilman Majors. I think that's an important point to highlight as well. Council President Bowers.
Thank you, Vice President Green. I don't have any questions. I think I'm comfortable with the numbers and the information that's been shared. But I would just like to say thank you. I would like to thank Vice President Green for her leadership on this resolution. And I would like to thank the members of the Finance Department for availing yourselves, and the Treasurer's Office, and the Comptrollers. It has truly been a group effort. So I appreciate this compromise that we've come to, and I'm hopeful that we will be debt-free in 2023, as the presentation said. So thank you.
Thank you, President Bowers. Councilman Mattson.
I just want to echo what some of my colleagues have stated, and it's been a long journey to get to this point, and so proud of this community and council and previous administration and this administration for getting us to this point. I think it's really remarkable. So just congratulations to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilman Rouse.
Thank you, Vice President Green. I don't have any questions, just a thank you for working so hard on this, from the administration, Vice President Green, coming up with an agreement. This wasn't easy. I think a lot of us were like, yes, let's get debt-free, pay it off, but then you do have to step back and think conservatively, making sure you have what you need as you go along, because you can't get money back, can't reverse it. So it is a thought to have. So just thank you to coming to an agreement.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the administration. Thank you to the Finance Bureau. Thank you to everyone for being willing to have the conversation. I think that's the most important thing. You know, we can't just sit on opposite sides of the aisle and say, we're not going to talk. It's important for us to do what's in the best interest of the city. So I appreciate everyone answering the phone calls and having those conversations. So I will move to make an amendment to Resolution 64 to amend the amount to $12 million.
Hold on one sec. We have to go back into our session. Are
All right.
there any other questions, comments, or concerns for discussion on Resolution 64 of 2022?
Just to say thank you for your input as well, coming back to us. That helps the decision-making process.
Thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion to resume our legislative session.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. We've now returned to our legislative session for consideration of Resolution 64 of 2022. Are there any questions, comments, amendments?
Now's the time.
Yes.
I'd like to move to make an amendment to Resolution 64 to change the amount to $12 million, as well as to substitute Exhibit B for the new schedule. Is that everything, Solicitor?
Because there's an additional clause in the amended resolution, I would think you just want to substitute the amended version of Resolution 64 for the original.
All right, I would move to substitute the amended version of Resolution 64 for the original. That's easier.
I second the motion. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to the amendment on the table.
Just one comment. Again, just want to say thank you to Chair Green, Vice President Green, the administration and everyone, their leadership on getting us to where we are on this amendment. I think this is a important step forward for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I'd just like to echo those same sentiments and just proud to be a part of the team and thank the administration for the compromise and the ICA for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote on the amendment, the proposed amendment?
Yes. Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
The amended form of Resolution 64 has passed unanimously, 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. That was just a point of clarification. That was just the amendment, or we're fine with the language? We have to vote on it as amended.
Yeah, somehow we've added a step here, but yeah, normally you just vote as amended. You make the motion to vote as amended and, but if it pleases the council, it can make 2 votes.
Okay. I would just like to make 2 votes, just so everybody is clear that we substituted the language, if you don't mind. So you could please appease me. We will vote on Resolution 64 of 2022 as amended. This will be our final vote for this. Council members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
The final vote on the amended form of Resolution 64 has passed unanimously, 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. We will now move on to Resolution 65 of 2022. Council members, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules for discussion.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second then.
Thank you. I will defer to our Community and Economic Development Committee Chair, Councilwoman Daniels, to lead this discussion.
If someone could from the administration. But on this particular resolution, I think the only outstanding issue was the parking, kind of disagreement between the administration and the applicant. Have you all been able to work out the resolution? What does that outcome look like?
Yes, we have. We've been in coordination with the applicant on an approach to the redesign of the parking lot at 1513 Market Street. There is an existing driveway curb cut off of 16th Street that can provide access to the site, and they'll be able to construct, I believe, 7 or 8 parking spaces facing the western side of that lot that can be accessed from that curb cut, and that will remove a potential curb cut onto Market Street, and it will also create space for physical separation there, whether that's screening, curb stops, basically preventing parking on the sidewalk, which, as anybody's driven up there, can be kind of prevalent. But I believe through our communications, we've been able to confirm that there's an appropriate design for the site that works for them and brings the property into better conformance with our zoning code regulations.
Do you have any comments or?
In addition to that, we also have secured a parking agreement with the neighbor. There are 12 spaces.
Okay, that's great. So, in total, then what's the number of parking spaces?
Approximately 7 or 8, let's call it 8, and these 12, there'll be 20 spaces.
Okay, so does the current resolution have the amended parking rules,
Actually,
or do I
I
need
think what
to-
they've worked out satisfies the language of the resolution.
Okay,
It's fairly broad, the language for the parking situation. There are two, it's condition 1 and condition 4. 4 was the lease of a space, and 3 was to reorganize the design of the parking. So
I think that was it. Thank you both for working with each other and helping us deal with this. I know this is a busy time for everybody. I appreciate the work that everyone is doing. So just recommend that we approve this tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, for clarifying. I will entertain a motion to return to our legislative session.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have now resumed our legislative session, and the resolution in question is Resolution 65 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 65-2022. A resolution approving a preliminary/final land development plan to convert the existing building located at 1510 Market Street into a 14-room supportive housing facility with shared living facilities and accessory supportive services.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 65 of 2022? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Parker, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Resolution 65 passes unanimously, 7 yeas to 0 nays.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 75 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes, Resolution 75-2022. A resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the Harrisburg School District for the collection of the business privilege and mercantile tax and the amusement tax for the 2023 tax year.
Thank you. Resolution 75 of 2022 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Our final resolution for consideration this evening is Resolution 76 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 76-2022. A resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a personal services contract with Gary Lathrop to provide strategic, emotional, and spiritual services to the city of Harrisburg Bureau of Police.
Thank you. Resolution 76 of 2022 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Council members, is there any old business for discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I wanted to perhaps get an idea from the administration on perhaps in appointments for Bill 8 of 2022, other known as CLEAT.
Councilman, yeah, I spoke with the mayor about it. She wants, I was going to talk after the council president to see if you or a group from council want to meet, just work out so we can get the full board
Absolutely.
appointed from the council appointments and the mayoral ones.
Absolutely. That would be awesome.
So I'll work with Michael on.
Okay,
things.
thank you. We
Thank you,
can
Mr.
do
President.
that. The pause was, I know we have our appointments. I didn't want to be premature and make our appointments if the mayor was not ready to make hers. So,
Well, I'll work with Michael and get the meeting scheduled.
okay,
Let me know who we want there and
okay,
we'll have the meeting.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you,
Thank you, Madam
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other old business council members?
Yes, I just, if you could give us an update on.
The budgets are not prepared as of yet. That's all I know.
So what does, I mean, because we're at the end of November now, what's that going to look like for?
I will meet again with DBHD and I will get you an answer to that question, what that looks like. As you know, CDBG money, for example, actually is over 6 years for the spend. So I'm not quite sure how it's working. I know the new fiscal year started October 1st. And I don't know whether they are still in the spend from the prior year's funding or not. They did have, if you remember, a lot of extra CARES Act money that had to be utilized first, had a faster timeline. That was CDBG as well than the normal CDBG funds that we get. And I just don't have that off the top of my head. I don't have those details.
I'll add to that. The mayor does have the numbers for next year, just under review. They'll be coming in Neil soon.
Because my concern is just like, are we missing out on an authorization that we need to make in 2022 for those funds?
There are a series of authorizations that you have to make actually going backwards. You have not voted on a home budget since 2019. But that was because of COVID and sort of how it threw it all.
I mean,
over
and
the
there
place.
were like regulatory allowances.
Right, right, but it's time to.
We're outside of that.
Yeah,
now.
right. We have to get it back on track. Normally, historically, you voted on these before you went on summer recess. Before the new money was sent. I do know that HUD was sending the letter that tells you your award later and later and later and later. It used to come at the end of, like right now for next October. Now it's coming closer to when you normally would have voted on it. I don't know if ours came in May or June this year. But Denise would have those details, Denise Hill. You can't really do them until you know what the number, their estimate letter is. They send you a notice of anticipated payment. But we will sort it out and get council budgets for the federal monies.
Okay, thank you. Any other old business? Okay, seeing and hearing none, any new business council members?
Just like
Councilman
to,
Rodriguez?
yes, ma'am. Just like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and just be safe throughout their travels this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other new business council members? I did just have some housekeeping notes in terms of scheduling. Next Monday, November 28th, 2022, council will host a work session beginning at 5:30 p.m. Vice President Green, our Budget and Finance Committee Chair, noted that our budget hearings will begin next week on Tuesday, November 29th, 2022, Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, and December 1st of 2022, all beginning at 5:30 p.m. We do have 3 other days scheduled for budget hearings. December 6th of 2022, December 7th, of 2022, and December 8th of 2022, all beginning at 5:30 p.m. as well. Our final legislative session for the year is scheduled for December 13th, 2022, beginning at 6 p.m. So I just wanted to note those dates and times for everyone's schedule. So please mark your calendars and prepare to either attend or listen in. Council members, is there any other new business or anything else for discussion this evening? Okay, seeing and hearing none, the time is 7:18 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Thank you. We stand adjourned.